We've got a charged atmosphere for two rivals in the East Division. It's the Moonshine Throwdown, Marshall and Western Kentucky.
Intercepted by Key, and Key has one man to beat. A nice cut move. Edwards can't get him. Key takes it all the way. A pick six for Devin Key.
Here comes Talik Keaton to the sideline midfield. He's to the 40, gets a block, and he is gone! Touchdown, Marshall!
So please join me in welcoming the 21st head coach in WKU football history, Tyson Helton.
And Marshall's going to finish the year 9-4 and champions of the 2018 Gasparilla Bowl, the sixth consecutive bowl win for the Marshall Thundering Herd.
Welcome to an impromptu Moonshine Throwdown podcast. We decided we were going to link up this evening and kind of recap this first round of voting in our Moonshine Throwdown Moments bracket challenge. Pretty intriguing matchups going in. Didn't know that there was really that much of a, big time upset type threat. And it really didn't prove that there would be. There were some, I guess you could call them slight upsets. It was always those coin flip matchups, the 4 or 5s. But, I mean, these teams stayed on brand. Marshall always leaning towards the football side of things when it comes to their athletic department. 7 out of their 8 remaining moments are football related. Western Kentucky also staying on brand. The majority of their 8 moments, 5 of the 8, are basketball related. So nice to see that they ventured away from basketball a little bit. But there is one bracket up there at the top that's, well, it doesn't have a basketball moment moving on, but somebody's going to get eliminated all the same. So let's talk about it, guys. Let's talk about these moments since we started with the Moss Regional when we started this whole thing, when we talked about it. Let's talk about the McDaniels region to start things off. And coming through out of the gate into the, what is this, the Sweet 16 now. Your number 1 seed, Claire Donahue, moves on, and the number 5 seed, the 2019 dominance by the volleyball team, kind of outs that 2012 win over the University of Kentucky in football. Also moving on in the McDaniels bracket, the number 3 seed, not too surprising, the Toppers capturing the 1AA national title in 2002, and they're going to go up against that number 2 seed, the men's basketball Sweet 16 run of 1993. So, Stephen, let's talk about that McDaniels bracket. I can't imagine there are too many surprises there, even though the 5 seed moves on. That's one of those coin flips, but what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not too shocked that kind of going from the top down, that the gold medalist that Claire Donahue advanced, pretty convincing fashion, 89% of the votes. So pretty impressive athletic feat anytime you receive a gold medal, defeating that triple-double by OMB. The next one, the volleyball team 2019 defeating the football victory over UK. I think they're both big moments. I think the volleyball one may have had the advantage of the recency bias playing there. I was at both of them. The volleyball one was electric. I'm not going to put that away and discount it at all. But that football one was, huge right up there as well. Just kind of, especially in their own place, to beat them there. But still glad that volleyball's moving on. Then the next one, the 2 football matchups, the 1AA national title versus the first ever top 25 ranking. I thought the recency bias again might, beat the 2002 team there, but they pulled off a victory with 56% of the vote. And then I was really kind of shocked that there wasn't an upset on the bottom of this bracket. I'm really surprised, especially coming from this account, holding the poll. It's a lot more recent that the 2014 victory over Marshall didn't upset the 1993 men's basketball Sweet 16 run, even though that, in my eyes, probably is a greater athletic achievement to win a couple games in the tournament. Our first ever victory over a ranked opponent was still pretty big as well. So, going forward, Donahue versus the volleyball team, really don't know how that was going to play out. I mean, just both of them are great. The volleyball team is just kind of has set the bar as probably the highest achieving team on the hill for the last decade. I mean, they're just killing it at all, every single year. And I think they bring back most of their team next year, so it's going to continue next year. But a gold medalist, just hard to pick who's going to win there. And then 2002 football, kind of a couple throwback teams. 2002 football championship versus 1993 Sweet 16. Should be another fun matchup. Personally, I think the football side will win, but like we said before, the basketball tradition of this school might lean towards that Sweet 16 victory. So I don't know. It's a couple intriguing matchups, that's for sure. Different sports all the way down the list. So, it'll be fun.
I can't say that I'm surprised that the 2014 win against Marshall didn't move on, because I don't know, but I would tend to think that some Herd fans jumped onto that pole and wanted that game out of there. They did not want that one moving on and having any sort of chance at taking this side of the Hilltopper bracket at all. So, but still, I mean, a Sweet 16, look, you're going to win against ranked opponents probably far more often than you are going to make a Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament. It's just a bigger moment. It just is. I don't care what school you go to. I don't care if it's a straight up football school. And if you make a Sweet 16 run, that should be moving on. So really intriguing matchups moving on. And once we cover the bottom half, the Oldham bracket, that quadrant, I'll ask some questions at the end here to see where your guys' head is kind of at. But let's talk about this Moss Regional, Trace. The number one seed moves on, of course, that 1999 football team capturing a 13-0 undefeated season, number 10 ranking in the final AP poll. And the lone upset on this entire bracket for Marshall, the 2018 basketball team upsets Randy Moss, winning the Biletnikoff Award and finishing fourth in the Heisman, which to me is a little surprising. That it was a huge moment in time for the Herd, especially in that came in their first year in Division 1A FBS football. But nonetheless, Elmore Burks and the guys move on to face that daunting 1999 team in the next round. Also moving on is that really, I don't know what you call it. It's an immortal moment in college football. Byron Leftwich being carried down the field, ousts the debut to the home crowd of scenes of We Are Marshall. Maybe if Marshall had won that game against UCF, maybe that moves on. I don't know, but that was a little sour note on that otherwise pretty awesome night. No surprise that the 1996 undefeated 15-0 1AA national championship team moves on as well as the number 2 seed. Ousting, gosh, I don't even remember what that was. What did they oust? The soccer team, the 2019 soccer team. Yeah. So let's talk about that Moss Regional. Same with you. Any real surprises? It doesn't look like it. 1, 2, and 3, and 5 move on, just like the McDaniels bracket. I mean, it's a legitimate mirror image. So talk to me about that Moss Regional.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it went pretty much as expected. I mean, the 99 football is going to be hard to top against anything. I think it's going to be hard for anybody to beat that one. I mean, I understand that, even though that's not to discredit the softball at all, because like, I feel like, and this is what I was thinking earlier. It's like, I feel like if the softball from 2017 or the soccer from 2019 were paired up against non-football things, they probably would have won. I just feel like, because obviously Marshall's so football based and have been for a long time. So it's like naturally the football moments are going to, resonate a little bit more. So, I mean, of course, 99 football, like I said, I think that's the peak that Marshall football's ever been at. So, of course, it's going to advance. And then, like you said, the basketball beating Randy Moss's amazing 1997 season, that's maybe a little bit surprising, but to me, it's not that big of a surprise just because, I mean, the basketball moment was literally 3 decades in the making. I mean, it was just absolutely epic. I mean, like I said, it's my favorite personal moment of my Marshall fandom. So I mean, I would have voted for it, which I think I actually did probably vote for it on there. But but no, I mean, I mean, nobody can take away anything about Moss from '97 winning that Biletnikoff Award. That's a huge honor. Finishing top 4 in the Heisman, he was one of the highest finishers in the Heisman for non-Power 5, schools. He's one of the highest finishers for a Group of 5 schools, which is awesome. But I mean, the basketball and the recency bias helps in that too. I think just because it was 2 years ago, but it deserves it, in my opinion. And then we have like you said, the Leftwich getting carried down the field. I mean, that's just like that's going to go down in college football history as like one of the most like amazing moments probably of all time in college football. I mean, you just don't see that anymore. I've never seen anything like that ever besides this. I mean, the fact that this guy literally had a broken shin or whatever it was, I think it was a shin, and then like he literally leaves the game in a van, goes to the hospital, gets x-rays, comes back into the game. I mean, imagine now you get a hangnail and you're out the whole game. So it's like not even, it's just a difference of worlds how it was back then and how it is now. That's the best sign. That's the best example of leadership and toughness and determination and grit that you'll ever see in college football, in my opinion. It's the best. I mean, but I mean, the We Are Marshall scenes from 2006 during that UCF game are awesome, obviously, but like, yeah, it doesn't help that they lost that game by 1 point I think they hit a field goal late in that game, I think. So, I mean, it kind of sucks in that regard, but I mean, that was still a great moment, but it wasn't going to beat left, which very few things will, I think. And then, of course, the last matchup, the 96 football team. I mean, of course, that's like I said, people talked about it as one of the best FCS teams of all time, 15-0, national champions, won every game by at least 14 points. I mean, they were just awesome. But, I mean, soccer 2019, like I said, I think that's the best Marshall sports team of the entire 2010s decade. I think that. So, like, if it would have went up a lot of other things, non-football, it probably would have advanced. But because it went up against an all-time great team, it falls short. But nothing to take away from that either. So, I'm pretty happy or expected, results went pretty good in that first round there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to just lump in the 2017 softball team and, call that the moment is them winning the conference title because there was so much individual star power on that particular team. I mean, you had the nation's leader in stolen bases on that team. You had Morgan Zirkle, who went on to play for like Team USA or something like that, and several other Olympians from other countries. I think D'Orazio, who was the leader in stolen bases in the nation, played for like the Puerto Rican team or something like that. And of course, the pitcher, gosh, I can't think of her name right off the bat. Jordan, I want to say it's Jordan something, but I can't think of it. Anyway, I apologize, but she was like the workhorse, man. Pitched an unbelievable amount of innings in that season, and that team just dominated. They were really, really good. So they don't get the credit that they deserve. They were one of the stronger teams of the decade, just like that soccer team. But, Marshall's a football-first school, so this does not surprise me. So let's switch gears, move over to the other side of this Western Kentucky bracket. You've got the Oldham Regional. No surprise here that the number 1 seed, the 1992 women's Lady Tops NCAA runner-up, moves on. The other, call it a upset if you want to, the 5 seed men's basketball beating number 3 Louisville in 2008 moves on, upending Jake Sanford's Conference USA triple crown in baseball in 2019. And then both the 2 seed and 3 seed move on. Men's basketball beating UK in 2001. Ousting Miranda Kramer being a National Player of the Year candidate. And the number 2 seed, The Shot, to send the Toppers to the Sweet 16, takes out Courtney Lee, tying the all-time scoring record for Western Kentucky, both happening in 2008. So, Steve, legitimately no real surprise here. Let's talk about that Oldham bracket.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the brand was upheld. Basketball straight down the list, even though, one of them was the girls beating the boys. It's still, just basketball straight down the list. Kind of surprised that the Jake Sanford Triple Crown didn't hold its own. I mean, 73% of the vote went to the 2008 victory over U of L. And then even the Miranda Kramer, the year that she had, I mean, that was just a huge headline for WKU that entire year. I mean, she was just a dominant pitcher in the nation and in the conference that year. But at the same time, Western beating UK and then them never playing us again, as we stated before. We'll never let them forget that. The school had shirts made up for that victory. So not really surprising. And then the Ty Rogers shot. I mean, if you follow Western at all every year around March, you see that highlight about 50,000 times. Great shot, great memory. And not really surprising that it beat Courtney Lee tying the scoring record. 'Cause even though that's a great moment and a great record that might stand for a long time, that shot just every time you watch it, I mean, you just kind of get goosebumps. It's an amazing moment. But going forward, I mean, the 92 women's runner-up going against that 2008 victory over U of L, good matchup. Not going to be surprised if the women knock off the boys there because, a national runner-up is just hard to fathom. Even if you're talking 30 years ago, a national runner-up is an impressive feat. And then 2001 basketball victory over UK versus Ty Rogers. Yeah, that's tough.
That's a tough one.
I don't know. I mean, that's a good 2-3 matchup that, it might come down like that the first round. The volleyball versus UK Seminole, which was 51-49, it might be one of those coin flips that, we don't know until the last vote is cast. So should be fun to see how that one shakes out because I think they're both going to be very closely voted contests there.
Yeah, I got to talk about that 4-5 matchup as well. I think Jake Sanford doesn't really get as much credit as he deserves because a Triple Crown, my Lord, that is a very, very difficult feat to achieve. And it makes me wonder that if that win over number 3 Louisville would have been number 3 somebody else,
right,
Jake Sanford may have moved on. But being that that's the in-state and you just, you love to get one over on Louisville whenever you can, I think that one might have kind of pushed it a little bit in their favor. But kudos to the effort that Jake Sanford put out all year. I mean, that was an amazing year. It was a lot of fun to see come to fruition. And, we was kind of wondering if he were going to be able to pull the feet off, and ultimately he did. But this 2-3 matchup you got coming up is going to be, I mean, it's not going to surprise me if this is a 51 to 49% vote, because of, I mean, just who it is again. If that win is not over University in Kentucky, if it's somebody else, you're not sitting here thinking, wow, it's the shot all the way. But I don't know. This is going to be tough. I'm kind of already kind of excited to see where that is. This is going to play into what I'm going to ask you here in a little bit. So, Trace, let's talk about the Cam Henderson region. To no one's surprise, the number 1 seed Willie Merrick nailing that iconic field goal to give Marshall its first ever 1AA national title in 1992, moves on, ousting John Elmore, breaking the all-time scoring record for Herd men's basketball. The number 4-5 matchup in this bracket was really what surprised me the most, honestly. I mean, yes, that GMAC Bowl is amazing, and if you watch that game, I think the whole game is on YouTube now. You can watch it. But ousting Leanne Parsley, winning a silver medal at the Olympics, that was just a little bit surprising because, that's the highest honor you can win in your sport discipline is an Olympic medal. And, she was second place. She lost the gold. I watched the clip. I found the clip of her racing, and she was in gold medal position with one racer to go. And it was a fellow American, and the fellow American beat her by like 1/10 or 1/100th of a second. So USA went gold, silver in that discipline that year. So that was pretty amazing to watch. That was man, that's some scary stuff. I don't know if I could do that. But also the number 3 seed Kansas State, the victory over Kansas State and Manhattan, Kansas moves on, ousting Rakeem Cato, breaking the NCAA all-time record for consecutive games with a touchdown pass. And then the number 2 seed, the game-winning touchdown from Chad Pennington to Eric Pinkerton with just like 3 seconds left to preserve that undefeated season and send Marshall to a bowl game, moves on, ousting Aaron Dobson and his unbelievable backhanded, one-handed pass interference not called catch from 2011. So how about that Henderson bracket? 1, 2, 3, and 4 all move on.
Yeah, what do they call that? Chalk, straight chalk. I mean, that's pretty much what it turns out in that bracket. Which, I mean, to be honest, though, I agree with all the results in this bracket. I mean, even though, like you said, I'll get to one of your points here in a second, but just looking at that first, the 1-8 matchup, I mean, no offense to anything that would have been going up against it, but I just don't see how anything will beat the Merrick field goal, and at least in the early rounds. I mean, I just don't see. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I just don't see how anything can beat that kick, just because it's like one of the 2 or 3 most iconic plays in Marshall football history. But I mean, and it meant so much for the program, and it was like it won the national title, and then it was like the sign of saying, okay, this program's here. Program's going to be really good for a long time, and it was a great moment. And then looking at the next matchup, talking about the winning the Olympics, the silver against the GMAC Bowl comeback. Yeah, I'm not surprised that the GMAC Bowl comeback won, but I am surprised that it won by a fairly large mark. But I feel like a lot of that is probably just because of the issue that I had is I just was unfamiliar with it. I think that's a lot of the things with people on Twitter. I mean, not a lot of people that I follow on Twitter, interact with are into Olympic sports and stuff. So, I mean, it's natural that one of the most, not most greatest, that's a double negative almost, but one of the greatest bowls in college football history is going to resonate a little more, especially since, like I said over and over, everybody knows Marshall's a football school. So, I mean, it makes sense. It was just such a big moment, and just it's still like ESPN Classic and all those types of things still show that game to this day. So, like, and people still talk about it. So, I mean, I'm not surprised it won, but I'm surprised it won by as big of a margin, given that was a huge accomplishment by Miss Parsley there in 2002. And then the Kansas State win, yeah, I mean, I think that one's gonna be a pretty tough out, no matter what round or no matter what it goes up against. I mean, on the road, beat number 6 team in the country, Big 12 champions that year. It was just a big, big moment. Obviously, one of the best wins Marshall's ever had. And then the last matchup there, Pennington to Pinkerton. I mean, it doesn't matter how many times, doesn't matter what's happening with Marshall football, that play inevitably will show up somewhere, and you'll see it pretty much every single year for around football season. It's just always going to show up because it's such a legendary play. And then even though the Dobson catch, as far as just an individual play, that might be the best in this entire tournament, like just based on the individual play. But, like, I mean, as far as the moment goes, yeah, it's not quite up to par with Pennington to Pinkerton. But, I mean, there's a lot of – it's just so hard to vote on some of these. I mean, it's just – it's tough. But I think they turned out pretty accurately as to what I would say for my prediction. Yeah,
that Chad Pennington is always going to be a tough out when in a poll for Marshall fans. It's just, they love the guy. And that play is – so iconic. But I'll tell you, I've seen the video of that drive leading up to that play, and my favorite part of that whole drive is this out of nowhere, like 35-yard scramble that he breaks loose.
Plus a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, and then gets nailed out of bounds for another 15. I mean, it's just so unlikely. It's like Chad Pennington is the opposite of scrambler. I mean, it's like watching paint dry, watching him run. It's so slow, but that's what makes it awesome. No, not at all. But that's what makes it so awesome is that had to happen in order for this iconic play in herd history to happen. But back to what you said about the Willie Merritt kick, I agree 100%. That was the moment in time that Marshall football could say, all right, the rebuild is over.
We've arrived.
From 1970 to 1992 or 1971 to 1992, that moment is like, that's it. We made it. We're here and we're here to stay. So I don't know if I can see that easily winning it all, depending on who turns out from both schools when the finals come out, But I can see that play definitely moving on to the finals on the Herd side of the bracket. So moving forward, with what we have left, Stephen, who's the most intriguing matchup that you have on, of these four matchups? Which one's the most intriguing to you?
I definitely think it's the 0-1 basketball versus Ty Rogers shot. Both of those are just kind of huge moments for us on the basketball side. If I had to go number 2, I would definitely go Donahue gold medal versus volleyball 2019. I think both of those are really intriguing. I couldn't call either one of them. I'm not sure right now. I couldn't answer how I would vote on both of those. But I will get in there and click a vote whenever those go live. But I think both of those are just really intriguing and could go either way. I don't think either one would be considered an upset, even looking at the seeding. But yeah, those are both very interesting matchups that either one could win.
Yeah, same question, Trace. What's your most intriguing matchup left on this Herd side of the bracket to you?
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and I have it down to 2 potential matchups that I think could be, that are in the running. But man, this is kind of like a who's who of Marshall sports stuff right here. Honestly,
yeah, you're getting there. You're really getting there. You really are.
It is crazy. You got the 2 matchups in the Henderson region are the 2 that I'm leaning towards. But the first 2 in the Moss regions, the second round. 99 football against 2018 basketball. I think that's a great matchup, but I think I know which way it's going to go, towards football. And then Leftwich getting carried down the field, and the 96 team is a great matchup, but I think Leftwich is getting that one. Whoa, but okay. Looking at this, honestly, I think Leftwich is getting it. I know how people look at that now. I've seen a lot of people talking about it on Twitter and stuff, so I think Leftwich will get that one personally. Could be wrong, maybe. I don't know. But the 2 I'm looking at really toughly, in the Henderson region is the field goal, Willie Merrick field goal, and the GMAC Bowl comeback. That one right there could be like how whenever it shows up on Twitter or from your phone, it'll say 50% and 50%, but when you go online, it'll say 50.4% or something. I think that could be one of those. That's going to be a really close one. And then the Kansas State win against Pennington to Pinkerton, I think that's a great matchup, and I think it could really be close. But I gotta lean towards the Pennington play, even though a lot of people look really fondly on that Kansas State win. But obviously the Pennington to Pinkerton play meant more in the grand scheme of things. But I think that Willie Merrick field goal against the GMAC Bowl comeback in 0-1 is going to probably be the closest one yet on the Marshall side of things.
Well, you kind of answered the next question I was going to ask, but I was going to ask, which one of these is the most likely upset? And it sounds like that you think it's Leftwich over the 96 team.
I do. I really, even though that wouldn't be based on the seeding, it wouldn't be that big of an upset to 3 over a 2, but a lot of people, will live and die by that, 96 to 99 kind of era of Marshall football, and for good reason. And that was a phenomenal team that team was so great that I remember seeing I think it was Jeff Sagarin or whatever his name is, ratings after the 96 season, and he's talking at the time the 1A level, and this was when Marshall was in 1AA. He had them in a top 20 team in the country and they were 1AA. So that's how good that team was, even though they were 1AA. So people look really fondly on it, but that Leftwich moment, that to me, that's bigger than sports to me. That's kind of just a transcendent moment that I don't know. It's just, it's really just, I hold it so high. Moment. So I don't know. That one's going to be good, but I don't know. I kind of think Leftwich will win that one.
Well, I got to go back to it and say, if folks remember that this is about a moment, not a team. Right. So if you're talking about the moment, then the Leftwich moment is easily the better moment, because you're just talking about securing an FCS title, and you'd already done that earlier, in the decade. But still, people will vote how people want to vote. Stephen, what about you? Who's left? Where do you see the most likely upset, if there is one?
Just looking at the seed, I mean, I think that more than likely the 2008 men's basketball over U of L could beat the 92 women's runner-up just because, that men's victory over an in-state team, like you said earlier, if it was any other number 3 team, an out-of-state team that we don't quite care about, maybe it wouldn't mean as much. But being that it was number 3 U of L, could overtake the runner-up, the Lady Toppers. I don't think that it should per se, but I could see it happening just because men's basketball school and number 3 team Louisville got beat. So I could see that being an upset that gets pulled.
Well, I mean, due to recency, I got to think that maybe that volleyball team can pull out the win over Claire Donahue's achievement, just because they were so dominating and so many Topper fans took part in that run. They packed Diddle like it was a freaking basketball game, and that was just the talk of Bowling Green for a while. But the last thing I want to ask you guys is, based on what we have here, first thing I got to say is, I asked you when we started this if you had a dark horse that you think could make a run, and both of your kind of dark horse moments got ousted, but both of your odds-on favorites are still alive. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there. But if you got to look at these right now, and I'm going to put you on the spot, Trace, I'm going to put you on the spot. What's your gut feeling of the finals matchup? Who do you think it's going to be? Both sides.
We're talking, okay, both sides, yeah. Okay, so for me, when I joke, I filled out a bracket and printed one out just for, LOL kind of thing, just to do it. And my final ended up being the Willie Merrick field goal against the women's runner-up team in Western Kentucky. I mean, I just don't see how – I mean, you're literally in the national championship game. I don't see, how anything could realistically beat – I mean, unless you're just not, as big on women's basketball or something. I don't see – I mean, that's like the peak of what you want to do, basically. I mean, the only thing they could have done more is win the game and won the whole thing. I mean, they almost won the entire thing. So, I mean, that one's going to be on there, I think. And then, I mean, there's 3 or 4 of the Marshall moments that I feel like could make it to the final, but the kick, that field goal, just kind of still is in the back of my mind that it'll make it to the final, even though it could just as easily lose to that GMAC Bowl comeback because it's a little more recent, and people, think about Byron Leftwich more, and they think of stuff like that. So I don't know, but I mean, me personally, I have the Merrick field goal in the final against that women's runner-up team.
I would charge people with, before they vote on these moments, go to YouTube and search it and listen to the play, watch the moment, and see which one strikes the chord with you most. Because I'll tell you what, I watched that kick, the Willie Merrick kick, today, because I tweeted out earlier, I was asking folks what was the coolest sports-related moment that they'd been a part of as a fan, whatever. And somebody said they were at this game. So I was like, all right, well, let me go watch it. Put a YouTube link on there. And the Jim Nance call is wonderful for that game. It is absolutely awesome. As a matter of fact, it was one of the plays of our first podcast intro. It was one of those. So it's just such a huge moment. Stephen, what's your gut feeling for the finals? If based on what you see here, who do you think is going to make it to the final matchup?
Yeah. Coming from the McDaniels bracket, I mean, I think it's going to come down to whoever wins that Donahue and 2019 volleyball matchup. And kind of piggyback on what you said, the recency bias for the volleyball team. I can see that, but they also barely beat the 2012 football team, 51-49. So I don't know. I just think that gold medal is going to hold a little bit more weight. I think Donahue is going to win that matchup, and then whoever she gets matched up with next. And then coming out of the bottom side, I hear what Trace is saying with the women's runner-up, but that was almost 30 years ago, and the Ty Rogers shot feels like it was just yesterday. I mean, I could literally tell you where I was, what I was wearing, and how absolute crazy I went and campus went when he hit that shot, and we end up going to the Sweet 16. I think it's going to be hard to beat the Ty Rogers shot on the bottom side in the Oldham bracket.
So who makes it to the finals then? Is it Donahue? Is it volleyball? Is it Ty Rogers? Who's your gut? Who do you think makes it?
Oh man, Donahue versus Rogers is going to be. That's a tough one. I mean, I would vote Ty Rogers just because I can specifically remember that versus 2012 Olympics. Even though that was more recent, that Rogers shot, it just, I think it resonates more with the fan base. Every time I see it, I mean, it's just an amazing moment. I mean, I don't think that one will ever get topped until we make another Sweet 16. Eventually, hopefully, maybe off a similar big play that propels us there. I mean, I'm not sure that anything is going to overtake that Ty Rogers shot. I mean, it's that good.
It's pretty iconic. That to me is like almost the equivalent of Leftwich getting carried down the field for Western Kentucky. You're going to see it every March, just like at some college football montage. You're going to see Byron Leftwich getting carried down the field. Not even a Marshall montage, just a college football montage. So who do you think, what's your gut say that is going to take the herd side of the bracket?
Yeah, I mean, the Leftwich play is obviously a pretty obvious one. I'm trying to pull up your bracket because I don't have it in front of me. But I think your number one seed, the 99 team, going 13-0, top 10 in the AP, and the Leftwich getting carried down the field. And then actually the number 2 seed, the 96 FCS, 15-0. I mean, both of those, all three of those, not discrediting the 18 team basketball team. I don't like them. Sorry, they're not winning. So it's going to have to be. I'm going to go with the 2 seed, the 96 FCS, 15-0. I mean, that's an unbelievable feat. Then on the bottom side, even though I'm not as familiar with most of these on the bottom side, admittedly,
yeah.
From just what I hear in the discussions and talking about leading up to this, I mean, the 1 seed, the Merrick game-winning field goal, which I'm going to make a point to go watch the link that you're talking to of the call. I think that 1 seed is going to hold there. Then the 2 seed from the top. And give me the 2 seed. Give me the 96 FCS going to the final versus the Ty Rogers shot.
That's both of you guys have different matchups, but both of those are equally awesome. I am so pumped to see how this turns out. I don't care if freaking 10 people are voting. I want to see how this turns out because it's pretty cool to see how these whittle down. And I think by the time you get to the final, the Elite Eight, you're definitely going to have the who's who. I can't see the basketball team beating the 99 football team. To me, the Leftwich and the 96 team is a complete toss-up. I don't think anything's going to dethrone Willie Merrick's kick until the finals at the soonest. And I can't see Kansas State dethroning that pass from Pennington to Pinkerton because that's just as iconic to Herd fans as the Willie Merrick kick. And over on the western side, the Ty Rogers shot to me is just going to keep on running. I think it's got the relatability to more fans to oust the national runner-up 92 Lady Toppers team. Claire Donahue's gold medal has enough just wow factor to keep running, but that buzzsaw may very well be this volleyball team in the next matchup. And then the 93 Sweet 16 to me is also just going to keep running through. I don't think the football 1AA title is going to have anything for it in this next poll. So it's going to be it can't be all basketball because somebody on the top there is not a basketball moment. But I think you're going to have definitely three of four remaining will be Toppers basketball moments. So anyway,
I want to add one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I'll real quick. I want to add one thing because if you're talking about that Merrick play and the Pennington play, and I was sitting here thinking about it, and in my opinion, this is just something I literally just brainstormed. Maybe this will help sway some voters, maybe. But in my opinion, the top three plays in Marshall football history. Number 1, bootleg screen 213. Yep. Enough said. Number 2, the Merrick kick. and number 3 is Pennington to Pinkerton. In my opinion, that's the 3 biggest plays in Marshall football history. So take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, if we'd said this before, if this poll went back pre-1990, that play in 71 is going to be there, and it's going to run through the entire bracket untouched.
It's going to win everything.
I mean, untouched. How could you sleep at night knowing you voted against that play?
I hate the fact that some of that game is on YouTube now, but that play is not in it. I don't know. I would do so much to see, like, if there was actually a recording of that live play, not from the movie, of course. Like, if I would love to see that play actually happen, live, so to speak. That somebody needs to dig deep.
So I don't know if it's out there, to be honest with you. I mean, if it's not in the Marshall archives, then it's not out there, because that game's at Fairfield Stadium in 1971. There's not a TV contract going on, So if there's not like coaches film of it, that's about all that's going to be there. Is game film for the coaches to dissect. That's about it. One last note about the Olympics. I had all Marshall, all-timer statistician Woody Woodrum come at me earlier and tell me that there have been exactly 2 Marshall alums win medals. And Leanne Parsley's the only one to win one individually. The other one was Mike D'Antoni as an assistant coach on the USA men's basketball team. That is it. So you're talking about some rarefied air. So anyway, you guys got some final thoughts? We'll get out of here. I'm going to post these. I'm going to do these polls tonight, and I think I'm just going to run them for like maybe 18 hours, so they still end tomorrow evening. So maybe if we have some free time, we can recap how it went tomorrow night, and it'll be an even quicker show. So if not, that's okay too. But anyway, you guys got final thoughts before we get out of here? Trace, you can start us off if you do.
Yeah, I mean, just real quick. I mean, I'm really liking how this is playing out. I think it's going to be the votes are going to get harder and harder. I mean, the first round you kind of expect there to be some more lopsided results based on the percentages and stuff, but once it starts getting into the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 and the Final Four and etc., that's where it's going to be like, all right, these are tough freaking polls. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter who it is, no matter how much you think that you like one moment, you got to look at these other moments and think, okay, these are just as good, if not better. So it's almost like flipping a coin on some of these. So like, even though like I think I know how certain results will turn out, I have no clue at all.
Yeah.
So like, it's going to be really good, because I think there's going to be a couple maybe upsets, if you want to call them that. But at this point, I don't really know if you can call any of them upsets, because these 99 football, now that'd be a big upset there. Yeah. But I don't see that happen. But other than that, I really wouldn't consider any other result pending to be that big of a quote unquote upset. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays.
And Steve, you got any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's been a fun exercise. Obviously, we're all thirsty for sports. We're missing March Madness. I'm missing the NBA coming down the stretch run towards the playoffs. We're missing spring ball and competition battles for depth chart and starting spots, and this is just fun. It's just fun to talk about, discuss, put it out there. Y'all, a lot of different accounts are doing their own little brackets, and this is fun. And maybe it leads into another bigger, better idea that we can kind of piggyback off of this one. Who knows? But this is fun. I think. I don't know what to expect coming down on our side of the bracket, but it's interesting to see what the majority of the fans vote for. It's been fun so far, and I'm sure it's going to get better as it gets tighter down to the final 2.
Yeah, I would recommend, again, we're all bored and, we've got tons of free time on our hands. So before you hit that button and vote, see if there's a clip of something on YouTube. Most of these will have it. I know just about all of these Marshall moments have had, because I've watched it, and I've seen the Ty Rogers shot. I'm sure there is. I've seen plays from the ousted win over UK. So I'm sure there are some clips here as well. So if there's a clip, find it and watch it and see how it strikes you, and then vote accordingly. But we'll try to see how this goes. I'll post them up here in a little bit, and they'll run till tomorrow evening. So I'll retweet them a few times throughout the day. I'm sure Trace will do the same thing. But anyway, until the next time, take us out of here, Steve, and we'll get the heck out of here.
Go Tops.
Trace?
Go Herds.
Continue to wash your hands. 20 seconds. We'll see you next time. It's the Moonshine Throwdown Podcast. Later.